It's a yes and. It is a yes, use your gifts and abilities and put it into work and put it into serving other people and into a business, but also have that place where you're doing those things that are just for you. Because honestly, those are the places where even if it has nothing to do with what your work during the day is, you might get an idea. You might stumble across a process. You may discover something that excites you so much that it breathes new life into what you're doing for those other projects.
You can pivot, you can change. What's the worst that's going to happen? You get out of that thing. But to really be as true and authentic as you can be to where you are at today, not where you were at 10 years ago when you started your business. We fall in love with things and we fall out of love with things.
Trying to emulate somebody else's journey doesn't usually work because they have all sorts of factors and things, and we get into comparison traps and we don't realize that oh, they've got a spouse that has, a really good job that takes care of X, Y, and Z, and that's not my situation, or whatever it is. We can't compare. And so it's do the best with what you have before you. And that's why, again, I come back to the listening to yourself, getting alignment, getting clarity, because you're the only one who's responsible for you. And so you need to do what's best with what you have. Be faithful for what's in your hand today.
Yeah. On episode 423 of this podcast, we talk about why being creative and making money don't have to be at odds with each other and how you can find the right balance. We also talk about the importance of having creative outlets outside of your paid work and how to evolve your business as you evolve as a person. All that and so much more on this episode of the Grow Your Video Business Podcast. What is up, my friend? Hey, welcome to this episode. Hi. I got you. You are listening to this episode. Okay, this is not my first podcast, but it might seem like it because I'm being a little bit silly. I'm just I like to be playful, guys. Sometimes I like to be playful. I am glad that you're here. I'm excited that I got to have my friend Mike on this episode. He is a creative, very, very talented individual, and we talk about some good stuff. So pat yourself on the back for doing a good job in picking this episode to listen to. I'm glad that you're here. And I want to say, so I've been running my own video production studio for over 20 years. Okay. I have full-time employees. I've made a lot of mistakes. We just made a new hire. I'm so excited about our new hire. There's a lot of things that I've done right. There are a lot more things that I've done wrong. And, building a business, creating a business, having a business, growing a business, scaling a business, it is difficult. We just got done with a mastermind call, and we were just talking about the dips, the roller coaster ride that it is. And nobody has it all figured out. I don't even give a care. I don't know how many Facebook ads and Instagram ads I see of people saying, "Oh, if you're a video agency owner, you can be doing $30,000 a month, blah blah blah." I'm like, if that's the case, I guess maybe I could be saying this about myself too. I was gonna say, if that's the case, then why aren't you doing more video work? And here I am. I do video work and I do this education brand, but what's my excuse? I love doing this. I found a way years ago. I wanted to make more money, and my team said, stop selling more video jobs. And I was like, okay, what do I do? And decided that I would start monetizing the education that I was already doing, but I was doing it for free. And so here we are. I digress, you guys. I don't want to be a hypocrite, but I do get annoyed at some of those things that I see and things that I hear. I just got off a phone call with a good friend of mine, and I was asking him how it's going, and what that meant was how's your marriage? Because the last time that we talked, it was not good, and it was just a really tough conversation that he and I had about his marriage. And he said it's not great, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy, because I've seen, all through Christmas and the holidays and all the things, it looks like on Instagram, it looks like things are on the mend, and he's like, not really, no. And I'm like, oh my gosh. He's like, yeah, you can't believe all those things. And I'm like, okay. So yes. Anyway, you can't believe all the things. I'm here because I want to add value into your life. If you don't like the things I talk about, then go listen to a different podcast. But if you are not in the inner circle. And when I say inner circle, if you're not getting my weekly-ish emails, I try to take the best things from this show and email you. Here's a plan of action. Here's things that you can do. Go listen to this episode. It's great. But I also offer a lot of freebies, a lot of free resources if you are on my email list. So get on the email list. And the best way to do that right now is you can watch a free workshop that I've put together for you on how you can scale your video business. Once you sign up to that, make sure that we're not going into your spam folder and that you get my emails, because I'm going to continue to offer you cool things that I'm doing in my business or things that I think maybe you should try doing in your business. So that's a great way to get on the email list. And the way to do that is to go to studiosherpas.com/10x filmmaker. This is a whole community where I've got masterclasses and coaching, just lots of stuff, community. 10x filmmaker is normally, it is a paid thing that you can be a part of, but I have, if you go to that page there, you can access a free workshop and get the benefit of that free workshop. And you can learn more about 10x Filmmaker once you're there. So check that out, do that. Let's kick off this year. We've already kicked off this year, but let's kick it off again with not just more education, not just more podcasts, but more action. What are you doing in your work, in your life? Where are you stuck? What's your hope? What are your goals? Define those things. Okay, wherever you're at in your business, make sure that you're defining those things. It's not too late in the year. I mean, I'm recording this in the first month of the year, but it's not too late to find some quiet time and say, okay, what do I actually want to achieve and accomplish that's measurable at the end of this year in order for me to have a successful year? Find the time to do that. Write that stuff down, keep that stuff close to you, review it, look at it. And then if you're not making progress, stop, have somebody else ask you what the heck you're doing or not doing, and why isn't this thing moving forward? Why aren't you closer to being done with this? Okay, there's my sermon. I'm done. Let's get into this episode with Mike Brennan. Roll the tape, DJ. Here we go. What's up, my friend? Hey, welcome to another episode of the show. Today, my guest is Mr. Mike Brennan. He is creator and communicator, telling stories on pages and stages. Mike, welcome to the Between Two Ferns podcast.
Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it, man. I'm looking forward to this.
I'm excited. And we were just saying right before we hit record, I was on your show last year. Man, last year, that was so long ago. And I think this is the first episode that I've recorded. So I've seen you the most in this, in Riverside here. So congrats, ? Well, I love, I am so appreciative of what you have created for me. The last event that we were at, I think I've seen at least 2 sketches that you've done of me. And I remember first seeing your work at, it was at Mike Kim's event, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And just such a unique approach. I would have never have thought that what you do is a thing. And you are definitely talented in not just your drawings and colorings, but just the way that you interpret the things that people are saying, and you can really turn that into inspirational. I love how you're able to catch the essence of what somebody's trying to communicate. That is a skill. That's a gift. So let's just start. I mean, the bulk of this audience are full of creatives. And a lot of them are business owners. I don't know what the percentage is, but it's a huge percentage. So as a creative entrepreneur myself, there are some, I think, innate challenges that come along with that. Mm-hmm. And I would imagine that you've wrestled with some of them and you've had some success in overcoming some of them. But just share a little bit about what you do, how you get paid, and then let's just kind of get into some of the challenges that come with being the way that we are.
Hopefully there's some kind of ointment or cream or pill that we can take.
Yes, I'll be selling that at the end of this episode.
Nice. So. An elixir, we'll call it.
Elixir.
So yeah, I mean, it's the multiple parts of the business, multiple streams of income idea of being a creative who is interested in a few different things it all comes under the same umbrella, but there are different points of emphasis, and depending upon sometimes season, depending upon the clientele, one may come to the foreground, the other may, switch seats with it. But my background's graphic design. That's what I went to school for. That's what I worked in the field in large corporate places and then small mom and pop places, and do that on my own now for my own clientele. So branding, marketing materials, things of that nature, doing that for private clientele. And then amongst that, I discovered some other things that I was like, oh, it's not just design. There's actually other things that I'm interested in and I want to pursue and see what this looks like. And so because of my personal journey of wrestling with drawing and more of the illustration, fine arts type of side, for a long time, I told myself I wasn't really great at that because there was a style that was celebrated, which was photorealism, basically drawing something, rendering something so it looks like a photo. And I struggled with that style. And I told myself for some reason that because I couldn't really do that well, I couldn't be a quote real artist. And so, for years, I kind of avoided doing any of that stuff because I kind of felt lesser than. I didn't feel good enough. And yet I had to expose some lies through this journey I went on that basically said, look, there are things that are more authentic to how I need to show up and who I am. And some of those things it's embracing mess, like splatter marks in my work and loose lines and bold colors. And it took a long time to get there, this unfolding journey. But once I did, I figured out, oh, okay, I need to lean into this now with purpose and intention. And so the way that I do that is I have some of my own kind of projects, books and things that I've created that are illustrated. I do, I offer prints of some of my digital illustrations. And then like you were referring to before, another part of my stream of income is doing live event sketching. And so what that is me coming to an event, a conference, gathering, whatever it is that someone's hired me to come to. And I'm there in real time sketching what's happening during this event. So I'm capturing someone who's on stage and quotes, I'm capturing crowd interactions, branding elements, the whole vibe of the experience. And, to your point, you said it's capturing essence and it's telling a story really of what's happening there. And I realized that somewhere along the way, it wasn't just about the act of what it is that I was doing, but it was really more tied to what I see, how I see, and how I translate that to other people. So that's really been helpful in guiding me in what I do and how I do it. So it's design, it's live event sketching, it's speaking and coaching on the communicator side. I go and I love to speak at either conferences or for businesses and help them, their teams, to say like, how can we be more intentional about creativity and about not just this buzzword of like innovation that everybody says that they value, but at the end of the day, it really all goes back to like, oh, well, we got to be as efficient, as productive, and just keep going faster, faster, faster. And creativity needs room to breathe. So talking about how do we do that in a way that gets the best out of people while still doing the things we need to do. And so it's these different pieces that are happening, and some of them, like I said, are happening more often at times than others. But creating resources like books and other places where people can come and I can say, look, let's talk about your creativity. Let's get you creating so that when you're not just thinking about these things, not just dreaming and hoping, but you're actually taking action on things, then you start to feel like I'm producing things, putting it out into the world that can actually make me feel good about the work I'm doing, and then also change the lives of the people around me.
Yeah, I love that. I think that you sort of alluded to the acting on ideas and creativity, being creative. I think that's one of the gifts that we have is ideas. And but then you add that to entrepreneurship and it's like seemingly endless. There are so many things that get us excited. And then there's things that's like, maybe it doesn't get you as excited, but it's like, I think I could turn that into a business or a part of my business. And me being 20 plus years into my own production business, but then also even looking before I was running a business, how I was spending my time. And I think I've done a really good job of doing so many things that I'm not like really, really great at one of them. I'm kind of joking about doing a really good job at that. That's, I think, probably one of my biggest frustrations is that, you know, there's not like one thing I'm like, oh man, I'm the best at that. Like I'm really good at like, you know, a handful of things, and then I'm kind of good at even more things. The challenge of being an entrepreneur is like, I want to have a really good income, and I want to not have to worry about where the next job is, or I don't have to dream of what's the next version of my business that's going to make me more money and, you know, get me out of this hole or whatever it might be. What have you done? What's worked? Because I would imagine there's been some of those same things for you that you've experienced like me, but what has worked to help you get things done, and not just any of the things, but the right things?
Yeah. I think it's learning to listen to yourself, checking in, practicing self-awareness is huge. I know that may sound like it's a weird answer to that question.
Yeah, it's really weird.
But the truth is that I think we don't give ourselves enough credit in the things that we know that we need to be doing.
Yeah.
And the things that typically we want someone else to tell us, or we're looking for some other validation because fear is there.
Yeah.
And the more that we can practice this listening to ourselves and being who we truly are, and expressing the things that we need to express. And when I say that, I don't just mean in like personal expression, but I mean like, as in, here's what I'm offering as a service. Here's what my business looks like. Here's the decisions that I'm making, because there's alignment, there's clarity. And that takes a while for that to happen. And the only way you do that is by doing the work. And then also by pivoting when you need to and paying attention, keeping your hand on the pulse of what's happening, not just going like, okay, I'm driven by frustration right now, and I just feel like I need an answer. And so as soon as I get an answer, I'll just latch onto that. And without doing the hard work of, is that the right answer? Like, is that the true answer? Because we can find ourselves someplace where we never intended to go, because we thought, okay, this will be either the easy path or the quick path or the obvious path, but it might not be the best path. And sometimes getting to the best path, wow, it's hard to say. Best path. The only way to do that is by doing a lot of the work and a lot of the bad work to get to the good work, like you said before. And so I think it's an ever evolution that happens to us as creative people, because our interests continue to grow, right? We grow as people, and we need to reflect that. And then we have what we're doing in our businesses as far as, you know, systems and things we may have set up. And we want to make sure we're not at odds with that. And I think having a system and a structure is important, because we need to lean on that to be able to show up and to do the work. But then we also need to pay attention to our evolution and our interests and our passions.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a both and, not an either or. And the mistake I think sometimes that happens too is that we think, well, I really like to do this, therefore this is another stream of income.
Yeah.
When maybe not, because if you take that thing and you really love that thing and you tie money to it, you can kill that thing.
Yeah.
And I know far too many creative people who have done that. And then the thing that once brought them joy now is bringing them dread.
Yeah.
Because they're trapped and they're doing it because they did it to themselves.
That's really powerful. I love how you're talking about, like, we evolve as people. So the thing, when I started my business 20 years ago, I mean, I've changed so much. You know, I was barely married. Like, we had just gotten married, not like, you know, things were falling apart. We were barely married. I didn't have kids, you know, didn't own a home, you know, just like so many things. And now here I am 20 years later, I've got a kid that's graduating high school, and, you know, we're thinking about college, and, you know, 2 teenagers, you know, just like just lots of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm a completely different person. And I've probably have transformed into a different person, like, 10 or 50 times since then. And when I first started, there was nothing I wanted to do but video. It was like anything video. And then I got more into it and I'm like, okay, this is the kind of style and this is what I want to do. And then eventually I got to a spot where I'm like, I want to build this business in a way that doesn't require me to be in the center of it, which also means that I'm not the one creating anymore. And that's weird because when I started, it was like all about creating. I'm like, I get to shoot, I get to edit, I get to dream and plan and shoot and edit and do some more. And I think there was a part of me that felt selfish or that I sold out or what the heck is wrong with me when I had this shift. But it's like I was able to take that time to listen to myself. And I think what's so important for me now today is I'm really focused on building my business in a way that I could sell it one day or just like never have to work in it ever again. And if I'm going to do that, that's my focus and that's where I'm going to put a lot of my energy. I'm still creative and I still need that outlet.
Yes.
One of the things that I'm doing, I have been directing my daughter's elementary school talent show for the past, I don't even know how many years. And before that, my other kids' elementary school. And so I get to write the script and for the MCs and I get to help plan it and just create that event. And so for me, there's an outlet. I'm like, okay, I'm flexing my creative muscles there. I've been doing more photography. I've photographed my nieces and nephews' senior photos and talk about like instant gratification, shoot something and be done with it versus like shooting video and, just all of the elements that are involved in there. So for me, like I definitely have to be creating, having a podcast, being able to have these conversations. This is me creating. So for anybody that's kind of in a space where it might be time for the next iteration of yourself, and I love the advice of taking that time to listen and just say like, maybe it is time to go all in on making money while you have that opportunity. And then maybe in a year or 5 years or something, that opportunity is not going to be there anymore. And then you can keep listening to yourself. Hopefully it's not like a 5-year process, but it's a daily, weekly thing where you're leaning into yourself and say, what do I need? If I can't find the fulfillment in the work, can I at least enjoy the work and then find that fulfillment that I need elsewhere?
Yeah. I'm glad that you highlighted the fact that you're doing these other creative pursuits, because I think too many times I've seen a couple of scenarios. One scenario would be someone gets into a creative field because they think, okay, my goal is to make a living from my creativity.
Yeah.
So let's say they take a staff position someplace, they're a designer, right? I've seen this tons of times because of fellow designers I was working with on staff at places. And they would get the job and then they would start to excel. They would get more responsibility. They would go up the ladder and eventually they would become like management. And they weren't really even designing anymore. They're like, directing and they're doing some, and then they're like, I'm so far away from the thing that actually brought me into what it was that I wanted to do in the first place, that now I feel like I don't have an outlet. Right. And so I think to your point, you need that outlet. The other thing I've seen too has been people who are doing creative things all day long for other people and never have never take the opportunity, I'm going to say, to do things for themselves. And what happens is they go, I'm exhausted at the end of the day because I've been creating all day long. It's been about everybody else. There's never a place where I'm playing and exploring ideas and doing things that I just want to do that don't necessarily, there's no like reward there. I'm not going to sell this. I'm not going to, this isn't for anybody but for me. And we usually get the crumbs if there are any. And so what happens is people can be on this hamster wheel of like frustration. And then, I was on this at one point, and then it's like, I think I'm just done. I think I'm going to leave this all together because this is not working. I just feel like my gifts and talents are being used up for everybody else. There's never a moment for me, and it becomes this all or nothing moment. And so what you're saying, what I'm saying is there's a better way. It's a yes and. It is a yes, use your gifts and abilities and put it into work and put it into serving other people and into a business, but also have that place where you're doing those things that are just for you. Because honestly, those are the places where even if it has nothing to do with what your projects are, what your work during the day is, you might get an idea. You might stumble across a process. You may discover something that excites you so much that it breathes new life into what you're doing for those other projects. Because we're not these segmented beings like we like to say of like, I'm at work and I'm at home. I'm playing and I'm doing client, So recognizing that and embracing that, I think, is key for having a healthier creative balance in our lives.
Yeah. Yeah. I think even just in my own journey, it was in 2012 when my daughter was 2. So we had 2 kids at that point, and I was still having some occasional client meetings at our house. And eventually my wife was like, it's time for you to get an office that's not at home. Yeah. So I can just have the house and not worry about strangers coming here and doing business with you. And that was kind of a moment where I was like, man, I'm going to have to take on, $500 a month in a lease or a space. I'm like, man, and I had that conversation with myself of like, do I want to keep going all in on myself as a filmmaker, or is there a way for me to make more money, to provide for my family, to do some of these other things? And that might mean I have to scale the business in a way that doesn't require me to be the one that's shooting and editing. And that was the route that I took. And I'm so glad that lasted about 4 years before I was just like, I can't keep doing this. I was building the business, selling huge projects. I think in 2017 was our first $1 million year as a studio. And in 2016, my team was just like, you got to slow down. We're booking too much stuff. We don't have the capacity to keep doing this, all this work. And I was like, but I've got capacity. I want to do more things. And that's when I launched this brand to do education and to create this kind of content. And so for me, I've been able to really scratch that itch since then. And if I didn't have this business, I don't know what I would be doing. Yeah. If I went all in on the business back in 2016, I might be sipping Mai Tais, somewhere in my team doing all the things. But at least I was fulfilled from a creative aspect that I just hadn't been doing in years. And then on top of that, last year was the year that I shot the most video that I've shot in, I don't even know, a decade, just me and my family and just kind of around it. I got the DJI Pocket Osmo and I'm like, man, I don't have to use my phone, so I can just focus. And it was fun. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember filmmaking. Yeah, this is fun.
Yeah. And it takes the pressure off. Because there's no client, there's no budget there, right. There's no, like all the pressures that are normally associated with the things that we're creating when it comes to our businesses, it's not there. And there's more a sense of play, and there's more a sense of discovery, and I think a willingness to go try things and go like, what's the worst that happens? Like this quote fails, I don't know, whatever. But maybe I stumble across something that's like cool, exciting, or, it's giving yourself freedom to lean into that. So I love that. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's been fun. Definitely a journey though. And I think there's definitely a feeling of guilt. Yeah, I alluded to that a little bit. And it's just, it's weird, especially in this work, because nobody pursues filmmaking because they want to make a great living. They do it because it's fulfilling, it's exciting, it's so fun, and you're making stuff. So there's I don't know, there's this like feeling of did I sell out? Which, I remember just back in high school, we would look at different bands that would come out with albums and call them sellouts and, just all that whole thing. And so I think there was a fear of selling out for a long time. But, I don't want to keep bringing this up. I really appreciate that perspective of listening to yourself, because you don't answer to anyone but yourself. And if you have some kind of a faith, then you answer to God, but maybe your spouse. Okay. So there's a small handful that you really need to be answering to. But outside of that, your friends, your coworkers, your employees, like your boss, you can pivot, you can change. What's the worst that's going to happen? You get out of that thing. But to really be as true and authentic as you can be to where you are at today, not where you were at 10 years ago when you started your business, not all of the compliments that you've received growing up, like, man, you're such a great filmmaker, or you're such a great artist, or whatever. It's like we fall in love with things and we fall out of love with things. We're gifted in certain areas, but like then there's a time to just say, like, man, I just don't feel it anymore. And it's in those times where you don't feel it that you either turn it into something else. Like I turned my business from me being the sole filmmaker, the main one, to saying, like, nope, that's not the focus I want right now. I want to build something that is scalable. And so I'm going to pursue the business side and figure out the business side. Learning how to follow that without carrying any of the guilt, because again, you don't owe that to anybody else. I think it's really, it was hard for me to go through, and being on the other side of it, I'm just like, whew, I'm glad I went through that. For anybody else that's kind of stuck, there's another way.
Yeah. Well, and to your point of that sense of guilt, I think there's probably something in us that says we need to be able to make our living from the thing that we're most passionate about and pour all the energy and everything rowing in the same direction on that front. And that may be the end goal, but along the way, we still need to make money. We still need to live and do the things we need to do. And if it's a matter of, hey, am I going to work for somebody else and have a job, even if it's a part-time job? That's one route. And then you're still pursuing your own things and you're still building your own things. Or you have a couple of things in your own camp of going, okay, I have my own things, but this particular thing that I'm creating, and it's still using creativity, it's just in a business sense of building systems and structures and a business. Maybe that's not the thing that I'm most passionate about, and go, like, at the end of the day, that's where I want, everything to lead. But that's enabling you to set you up to be able to do a lot of the other things, so that it's not mired in the, man, I'm always creating and it's always for somebody else. And it's always it's never quite the thing that I want it to be. And so I don't think that there's like a right answer in there, but I think it's what are you most aligned with and what makes more sense to you. And sometimes it's just like, we're going to see if this works. And if it doesn't, then we'll have to course correct. But trying to like emulate somebody else's journey doesn't usually work, because they have all sorts of factors and things, and we get into comparison traps, and we don't realize that, like, oh, they've got a spouse that has, a really good job that takes care of X, Y, and Z, and that's not my situation. Or, oh, they've, whatever it is, we can't compare. And so it's like, do the best with what you have before you. And that's why, again, I come back to the listening to yourself, getting alignment, getting clarity, because you're the only one who's responsible for you. And so you need to do what's best with what you have. Be faithful for what's in your hand today.
Yeah. Ooh, man, that's really good. We could end there, but I got a little bit more. What as a creative for you, what is bringing new inspiration and ideas and getting you excited?
Right now, it has a lot to do with me being in a new location. So I moved to Nashville in September, and being here is opening up a lot of possibilities and hopefully opportunities that I'm pursuing. Some of it is impacting my creativity directly in that I'm creating art visual art that has to do with my surroundings. And so I'm visiting downtown Franklin, I'm visiting Columbia, I'm visiting downtown Nashville, and I'm doing some work that reflects places that I visited, places that I've seen, how I've seen them, kind of like what we talked about before, how I'm interpreting these things. And so that's been fun because I'm documenting where I've been and I'm seeing things and offering to somebody else and saying like, here's what I've experienced. I'd love for you to experience it too. And so that's cool. And then also on the other side of like the business front, more practically, it's put me in proximity to people who really understand more of what I do, because coming from New York, New Jersey, there was a lot of like, you do what? Oh, cool. I don't really have a category for you. I don't really have a direct use for you. So, God bless you, go on your way. But, because it was all like traditional jobs that didn't really understand my context, and even entrepreneurship, it was a different flavor. And here, creative entrepreneurship is like in the air. And so to be around people like that, to have natural conversations that come up in coffee shops and all those kind of things, like that's exciting to me.
Yeah.
And I'm loving pouring into that and being like, okay, what's going to happen today? I don't know. I'm open. And that openness, that availability is just permeating me right now and helping me be excited and curious.
It's good.
Yeah.
The lady that cuts my hair, I asked her, we were just talking about like our New Year's resolutions or words for the year. And she said her word for the year, and maybe it's 2 words, it's being open or open. And so you just said that, and that's what we've just been talking about here. I love that. I love that concept, being open, being available.
Yeah.
One of my favorite books is The Go-Giver, and being willing to offer help and to serve others, and then also being open and willing to receive.
Yes.
2 parts that are very, read that book if you haven't. Is that on your list? Have you read it?
No.
Yeah, definitely. It's a fun little short story parable, really, really cool. And, he talks about receiving. It's like, this is interesting. Some of us have a hard time taking compliments or receiving something that feel like we don't deserve necessarily, or whatever the case may be. But that's, I think that's a part to this, the idea of being open. What about, we look at, we're in 2025, welcome, in case you didn't know we're here. We get to the end of this year. What's going to mark success for you this year?
What will mark success? There are certain metrics, of course, that you set for yourself. I think, financially, number of projects, types of projects. I think coming to the end of the year, for me, it would look more like collaborations, partnerships, opportunities with people who maybe I don't even know yet. And because I'm in this new place, and that it's all aligned. And even if it's in one thing, maybe an event sketch, another thing, maybe a speaking gig, another thing, maybe a design, another thing, maybe, whatever, fine art, that it's all me showing up exactly who I am, exactly how I'm created to be, and bringing the best of me to create things for people, and then to encourage other people to create, because really, I want to see the ripple effect even more so in this year, to get with more people to be like, look, that thing that's inside of you needs to come out of you, not to sound like it's like an alien or something, but like, it needs to find its way out, because you're going to feel great about that experience of creating something, build your confidence.
Yeah.
And then the people around you are going to benefit because they're the recipients of what you create. And you may think, I don't know, so many people are already doing this, all the stories and the things we tell ourselves. Meanwhile, somebody's waiting on you to take action and do something. So I think helping more people do that for sure this year, that always lights me up.
That's amazing. I still have not landed on my word for the year, but collaboration is, it's in like the top 2.
Yeah.
So I was encouraged to do that last year, and I was able to work on a couple of things with people that I wouldn't normally have even thought about or pursued. And it's just way more fun.
Yeah.
Hearing you describe what that is for you, I'm like, yeah, it's way more fun, way more fulfilling. You learn more, you can do more. There's this scarcity mindset that I grew up with, that if you shared your idea with somebody, they might take it and do it. And even if you if it was a person that you loved and trusted. And so that was, man, I didn't feel right about thinking like that, but that was modeled for me in a super unhealthy way. And as an idea person, somebody who's like sat on way more ideas than has executed ideas, now I'm like, oh, okay, well, this idea, if I don't share it with somebody else, it's probably not going to happen anyway, but there's a better chance that it might happen if I share it with somebody else and invite somebody else into this thing. And the thought growing up was like, well, yeah, but as soon as you partner with somebody, now it's 50-50 instead of 100 and nothing. And I'm like, well, yeah, but if I don't share it or partner with somebody, then it's not going to happen. And so it's 0 instead of 100%, or 100% times 0 equals 0. So it makes more sense to consider collaborating and partnering.
Yeah.
And it's just way more fulfilling. I think we're designed more to do that more than we are to do stuff on our own. So
yeah.
Deep thoughts.
There's also like, if we create a bias towards action, we're going to be executing more ideas, and then we'll be getting more ideas. And so I think the ones that become precious, that's when it's difficult, because we're like Gollum, my precious, I can't share this. I can't let anybody else know it. And it becomes like this hoarding type of outlook as opposed to an open outlook. And like you said, maybe the role for you in that particular thing, in that idea, isn't for you to actually be the one to execute it, but is for you to be a catalyst for somebody else who's going to take the idea and bring something to it that you could never do. But your role in that was still as important as someone who would be the person executing everything, maybe even greater, because you didn't get mired in the minutia of things. It kept you free, So
sounds like a go-giver.
One of the things that someone encouraged me about the word of the year thing, right, too. And so I was thinking about my word, and I landed on experience. And the reason why I like that word is because it's encouraging me to think about possibility. It's encouraging me to be curious and to have more experiences, so that's really at the core of me, of like, when I have an experience and I take it and I kind of process it, and then I make something out of that, and then I share it with somebody else. And then, like I said before, I want them to have an experience around it. It's all tied to how I see things, how I view the world and what's happening, even bad things. That's a lot of the work that I've created is taking things that I'm like, what can I redeem out of this and make into something that's hopeful for somebody else, and let them know they're not alone. Let them feel seen and heard in the midst of something they're going through. So that word for me, experience, I think has really been something that's powerful to launch me into this year.
I love that. That's cool. Tattoo. Mike, this is awesome. I mean, we could probably hang out for a lot longer and talk about all the things. Unfortunately, I'm not sure anybody would listen to us talking for hours. What are some ways that people can connect with you and follow along with some of the great stuff that you're doing, some of the experiences that you're creating?
Yes. So the easiest way is if you just go to my main website, which is mikebrennan.me. From there will be links and tabs out to the sketching, my podcast, Creative Chats, which you mentioned earlier.
Yes, you listen to that episode.
And also there's an email newsletter that I send out weekly that's designed to encourage and help others show up for their creativity. And you can take actually a little quiz. That's the creative archetype quiz that's on my homepage right there. And that'll give you some information as far as what type of creator you are, and then kind of get you in my ecosystem so that we can kind of hang out in the same place. So, yeah.
Love that. And if you're in the Nashville area, look Mike up, be at your local coffee shop. Is there a place where you are hanging out most frequently?
I try to bounce between a few that are in the neighborhood just because
you're such a creative.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I got to change that. But one is the Fainting Goat. Another one is this place called Awaken House. Those are the two main ones. And then from there, I kind of go, how far do I want to drive? Let's see what's up.
Wonder if they would sponsor this episode, one of those.
That'd be amazing. Yeah, Fainting Goat probably would. They're very creative there too.
Mike, thank you, man. It's always good to be together. Appreciate you sharing. It's a fun conversation. But yeah, appreciate you. And here's to an epic 2025.
Here. And thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it.
All right, friend. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I am here for you. If you need anything, reach out, email me, ryan@studiosherpas.com. Check out the 10X Filmmaker, the free workshop, studiosherpas.com/10X Filmmaker. What else? I hope you have the most epic, best year ever. And if there's anything I can do to help you get there, I want to be able to do that. Okay? Don't be a stranger. Appreciate you. Love you much. Love your guts. You know what I'm saying? Have an amazing rest of your week. Make it great. Talk to you later. See you. Bye.